The first thing I have to say is that the poster for this one didn't really do it any favors. It made it look like a cheap and mediocre sci-fi movie that I would have most likely passed on. If it weren't for all the buzz it was getting these last few days, I kept seeing it pop up everywhere. And the reviews seemed really positive too, so I figured why not give it a chance anyway. And let me just say that I was very, very surprised by the kind of movie this turned out to be. Because it is most definitely not a mediocre run-of-the-mill uninspired sci-fi movie. It's something quite unique that seems to be inspired by old Twilight Zone episodes. And the story here takes place in the 50s and is set in a small town in New Mexico. And we follow these two youngsters who are really into radio technology. One of them operates the telephone switchboard and the other runs the local radio station. And that's when they both suddenly start noticing some anomalies. Some strange things happening, and they decide they want to know what's going on. And if you put all the pieces together of what I just said, you might get an idea of where this is going. 50s, New Mexico, Twilight Zone, and yeah, that's exactly where this is going. But how it went about it was so unique. Because immediately from the first sequence I noticed that the dialogue was very tightly packed. Rapid fire might even be a better description, and the second thing I noticed was the way the shots were set up. Because we get a ton of really long takes, some of which are impressive from the angle of the camera work alone. You have these sequences that are pretty elaborate and unlike anything I've seen very often. And then you also have these long takes that are basically just dialogue. I mean, they go on for minutes and minutes, and sometimes there's only one person on screen the entire time. And those shots were equally impressive because of the performances. Speaking of which, the two protagonists here, played by Sierra McCormick and Jake Horowitz, were pretty good. And had they not been as good as they were, this movie would have struggled. Because so much hinges on them selling you on the characters and the setting and the whole situation too. And part of that performance was a detail that I would guess most people wouldn't even think about. But these two have to operate an old switchboard and old radio equipment. Things these young people probably haven't even seen in real life before shooting this movie. And yet they come across as pros that have been doing this their entire lives. And that's the kind of attention to detail that really helped sell this movie. Helped me really get immersed in it and helped me really buy into the whole era and the situation. Because this is an incredibly toned down and subtle movie, for the most part at least. Especially for a sci-fi movie. I mean, that's a genre that rarely goes down this kind of road. Usually there's a lot more heavy sci-fi elements, more CGI, and the stories are a lot more on the nose too. But this chooses to do something very different and keeps it very simple. To the point that if you look at this story on paper, it would seem almost too simple. Too bare bones, and like too much of a throwback to when the genre was in its infancy. And yet, the execution here is so good that this turned out to be an absolutely captivating watch. I mean, it's riveting, it's suspenseful, it's fascinating, and I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. Not for a moment was I bored with it, and yeah, they managed to do so much with so little. It's kinda incredible actually. And even the ending, which I kinda assumed wouldn't actually go where it did, to me it just nailed it. It handled it so well and just knocked it out of the park in my opinion. And yeah, I thought this was a really good movie all around and a great debut effort by Andrew Patterson. And the writers too, who are also newcomers, and this is the kind of new blood I very much welcome into the world of cinema. But does that mean I would recommend this? Yeah, definitely. If you're a fan of sci-fi, check it out. And even if you're not, I think this one is probably still worth giving a look-see. Or you could also just skip it. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.